Everyone, welcome to the Stealing Insight YouTube channel. Today we'll be discussing mastering relative and absolute cell references in Excel, while we'll also be touching on formulas like sum, product, division, and subtraction. Hence, I'd like to take us through the memory lane of the fact that we've covered some of those things on Excel, whereby we've spoken about basic formulas and functions, and building on the past knowledge. I want to state that something relative is something that changes with respect to the changes that follows or that abounds, while that of absolute references speaks about something that is being static, that does not change, or that has a constant value. So for sum, I'll be using several means to get the sum of the data in column A2 and column B2. I can decide to write B2 plus A2 to get my answer to be this, and do this in order to get it done. For the product, equality sign product, open bracket, or let me follow the same pattern for now, A2 multiplied by B2. By the time I click on this, it also gives me the product downward. For the division, I can as well do A2 divided by B2. That's the answer. And for the subtraction, I can also say A2 minus B2. And the answer is this. So I'm going to eradicate all this. So let me copy and paste the answers here. Now, I'll be erasing all of this. For us to get the sum, you can as well just use this auto sum. You notice that the answer is the same. For the product, I can as well do product B2 comma A2 comma B2. You notice it's the same answer. The same thing applies here. The division of the A2 B2, while the subtraction to B2 also gave us this. You can as well copy this together and it gives you the answer at a go. Now, the focus of this class is not even on these formulas, rather on the relativity or the absolute value. So the relative figure here is that if you check the formula tab, you see sum of A2 B2. By the time we go to the next one, it is sum of A3 B3, A4 B4. But you notice that there was no changes that was done to this, but only the first one was attended to, and the same thing was impacted on every other thing down the line. If we go to the product, you see that the product of A2 B2, when it got to the next one, it changed to A3 B3. That's what we meant by relative references. Is referencing the data that are on the other on the same line in order to give the answers. But if we go back to something else, let's go for the absolute figure. For the absolute, we are going to be locking one of the cell. When you want to lock the column, you put a dollar sign before the column label, which is A. Now, to lock the row of that A, which is 2, the dollar sign A, meaning we are locking the column A. The dollar sign 2, meaning we are locking the row as well. So by the time we are adding this up to B, which is B2, this is the answer. When you drop this down, you realize that the answer we got before differs from what we are getting now. Because what the system is currently doing is that is adding 23 to each of the numbers. Why? Because A2 has been locked. So what we're saying here is this: A2 plus B2 because of the $2 sign. A2 plus B3 because of the $2 sign. The same thing applies here. The same thing applies here. The same thing applies to this. So when you want to lock a cell, you use the dollar sign to lock the column, use the dollar sign to lock the row, then you have the results that you have here. Now the next question is, where are all of these applicable? You can apply it in budgeting and in sales calculations and other calculations as well. So we are going to be using this data to test for how this can be utilized when we talk about the absolute references. For absolute references, we already have a constant value, assuming the person went to the market, bought each of these goods as this cost price, and the quantity bought for each of them is this, and the person pay a tax of 10% on each of them. In order to know the total cost price for the person to determine the cost of sales and the interest that the person really wants on it. So let me say, let's assume that, let's put this column, let's cut it. Let's cut this column and paste it here. Now, we've pasted the tax rate now. So we want to know the total cost of this sales, of this item, the item. So what we're going to be doing is, we're having equality sign of this multiplied by this, then multiply by 110% of this item, because if the tax is 10%, the 10% will be on that cost. So for us to know the total cost, is going to be the 100% of the price plus the 10% of this. If we just go ahead and put D, then we close it, we'll get our answer here. We won't be able to get our answer for the remaining to be absolute. But if there is a difference rate here of 7.5, you can say that it changed to that. But we want to decide to lock this up, that irrespective of the figure that is being placed here, the tax rate that we want to impact on all of these figures is 10%. So if that's what we want to achieve, what we need to do is that we need to lock the cell and the column. This is the way we lock it up. Now, by the time we'll, please take note of the 12,750. By the time we'll impact it, irrespective of the figure you are placing here, there will be no changes because it has been locked. The cell has been locked up, so there will be no changes. So it's just going to take preference on that amount. So that's what we'll talk about: relative references and absolute references. Now, when you check here, you realize that that is the D that is locked up. This one is locked up, and we have a figure. On the basis of this, if the person decide that the interest on each of these items is 10%, the person that owns the market decides that what I want to get is 15% on each of these markets, then we want to get what the selling price of this item will be. So the selling price will be equality sign of E2, then multiply by 1 plus the dollar sign F, dollar sign 2. So by the time you check it down, so this will be the selling price for each of these items in order for this person to make this amount. To get the total revenue, or the total profit rather, the profits that will be made from each of these items, that will just be equality sign of the G2 minus the E2. So with this, we can get the total amount this person is expecting from that sales, about $1,840 from this market sales, if the person is selling each of the item at the rate of 15% of the total cost price. Now let's go to the second data that speaks about sales calculation. Now for this other data, we're already having product A to J. The unit price of each of the products is this. The quantity sold in quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4 are this. Now they want us to calculate the total revenue for all of that. Now, in this case, the first thing we may need to do here is that we may need to first calculate the total units sold for each of the quarters, which involves this. So the total units sold can be done in several ways. I have shown that before. So that's the sum. So this is the units sold for each of them. This is the units sold for each of the products. For us to get the total revenue, then it's going to be equality sign of this. Then you multiply it by this. Our currency is in dollars. So then you have your figure to be this. So this is the total revenue for all of these products in that year. All of the products in that year. And to eliminate the dollar sign there, you can just make it to be in numbers. Or you make it to be general. As a general, all of this has been shown previously. And you have your figure. So all that I'm saying here is that there are mixed and there are absolutes and there are relative references. For us to make something static at this point, we can decide to make sure that whatever we're calculating here, we want to maintain that is the same sales that was made, irrespective of the quantity, is the same sales that was made. The sales on product A was the same sales made on all of the products. So what we're going to do is, for us to get that done, we need to lock the total units sold. In locking the total units sold, we will have this, and we'll have this. So for the first one, it still be the same thing, but for the others, there will be changes. You can see. So it means for this, the sales that was made for the whole year on all of the products, if they are the same, look at it, locked up, locked up, locked up, locked up. So the primary aim of this class is for you to know that you can lock the column by using $G2. You can lock the row by using $G2, and you can lock both row and column by using $G2, $2, meaning dollar the value of the column, then the dollar the value of the row. Thank you for listening to this class. We appreciate feedbacks and questions where there needs to be clarifications. You can also reproduce this data and lay hold on several ways at which you can manipulate and get used to these formulas. We appreciate you. Thank you. You realize that we are moving deeper and deeper as time goes on. Anticipate for the next class, which is the sixth class on Excel. And before the end of this class, I would also love to just quickly reiterate this. We can just include a transposition in this class. Let's assume I want to include this data to be on the row and all of the other products to be on the column. It's very simple. You just copy, then you click on this icon where you want to paste it in the new cell. You just click on paste, paste special, paste special. Then you click on transpose. Thank you for listening. Remember to subscribe, like, and share. Bye bye.